Shelli, Pelly, Annie Parker Confidential. It is a new year and it's time to clean house. We're talking about getting the negative people that are in your life now out. Look, if you want to fly with the eagles, you can't hang out with the turkeys. Keeping negative, toxic people in your life is kind of like trying to clean your house with somebody coming right after you in muddy shoes, munching on a tuna fish sandwich. Who are negative, toxic people? You already know who they are, I promise you. These are the people who at a fundamental level make you feel drained, they make you feel exhausted, they make you feel bad about yourself, they don't support your success, or they clearly feel resentful when you are successful, and or everything is always about them, their drama, what they have going on. And you can tell when you start talking about something that happened in your life, they can barely stand to listen to it because they want to get on to what they want to say next. It comes down to this. It's how somebody makes you feel. And let me first acknowledge this and make this very clear. Identifying somebody as negative or toxic in your life does not mean that they are a bad person. I mean, maybe they are. It simply means that your energy and that person's energy do not mesh well. And because they don't mesh well, it isn't a good fit for you. So I don't want you to feel guilty getting somebody out of your life because you feel bad for them, because you think deep down they're a good person. They could very well be, but it isn't a good person for you. And that's what we're talking about today. Once I've made the decision that somebody is a toxic influence in my life, there are 4 main rules that I personally stick to. First and foremost, I unfollow or unfriend them from all of my social media platforms. And let me be clear, everything that I'm talking about is never, ever, ever to be mean to somebody or to make them feel ostracized in any way. It's all about clearing out dead, old energy, toxic, negative energy that I don't want in my life. It's just about blocking out negative energy. It also stops them from coming up in your feed or you in theirs. If you're somebody who's like easily sucked into checking on their Instagram or their Facebook to see what they're up to, removing them from your feed is a good way to go. And that comes with unfollowing or unfriending. The second thing that I do is I delete old communications. So if I've got texts or emails from them, I just go through and delete them. It's really about psychologically clearing out dead, old, toxic, negative energy from my life. And that brings us to number 3. I also delete them from my contacts, and also I'm not tempted to re-engage with them. Although for me personally, once I make a decision and once I'm done with something, I'm done with it. Like there's no going back. It makes room for new, positive, good people and good energy to come into your life. 4, I never engage. If you literally run into them face to face, smile, nod, move on. There's no need to stop and chat and see how you're doing, blah, 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 blah. 1, you don't really care, so it's inauthentic. And 2, it's just uncomfortable. Smile, nod, move on. I have a friend who ran into a toxic group of women at an event that she was at. Her MO is to be like overly nice, walking up to the table and saying, how are you? How's it going? Blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. It serves 0 purpose. Move on. I don't ask about the person and I don't bring them up. Why? It keeps the energy connected to that person, and you've already decided that you wanted to move on. So just leave well enough alone. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. You do what's best for you. I'm just going to share with you what I personally have done and take from it what you will. Okay, how do you cut bait with friends and acquaintances? Let's start with the easier ones first, like a new acquaintance. Okay, let me share with you a story from my own life about a new acquaintance and how I personally handled it. I was invited to a friend's house for a small happy hour because she wanted us to meet a good friend of hers who had recently moved into town. It was just a small group. There were 8 of us. My friend seated me next to the new person because she said, oh, Shelli, you always make everybody feel welcome and you'll make sure that there's no awkward silence. I'm like, okay, well, I serve a purpose. So don't get me wrong, really nice lady, easy to talk to, but I spent the entire evening listening to horror stories about she and her boyfriend of 10 years plus. I mean, like crazy. We're talking drugs, disappearing for a week at a time because he's on some kind of a bender and nobody's heard from him, constantly unemployed, knockdown, drag out arguments. And I mean, listen, when I want to, I can keep a poker face. I'm just listening and I'm being sympathetic. And I'm going, oh gosh, oh wow, why would he do that? But inside I'm thinking this, I know she's going to ask me for my number and there's no flipping way for 3 reasons. 1, who puts up with that kind of behavior for 1 month, let alone 10 years? 2, the lack of judgment of spilling the tea to people you've just met. And 3rd, any kind of a friendship, you know exactly what's going down. And do I want that kind of energy in my life? No flipping way. She says, hey, let's get together. I love talking to you, which I knew was going to happen. Some people would say, well, you should be honest. Just tell her that you don't think it's a connection and cut bait right there. I think that's a little bit mean. She's a nice lady. She's just not my cup of tea. So I sort of took the weenie route, gave her my phone number. Then I said, we're going to be out of town for the next couple of weeks, but I'm sure we'll run into each other. She texted me to get together a few times. I was always busy, and fortunately she got the hint. So that's certainly one way that you can handle it. I'm a fan of not hurting people's feelings unless it's absolutely necessary and I kind of can't avoid it. This one's more difficult, I know. When somebody has been in your life, whether for a short time or a long time, and you've gotten to the point where you're like, this just isn't working for me anymore, here are a few recommendations for the process. First and foremost, just acknowledge the truth. It is what it is. Stop justifying her behavior and stop rationalizing her behavior. Like, well, she's just going through a difficult time, or, well, her dad abandoned the family when they were younger, and so she's got issues around that. Whatever it is. But just recognize that her behavior is what it is. You cannot control her behavior. You can't control who she is as a person, but you can control you, and you can control what actions you take in the relationship. And you have made the decision to end it. That's the first thing. Second, remember, it takes 2 to tango. Understand what your role has been in the relationship. What I have seen and found is that especially kind-hearted people tend to unknowingly nourish and feed toxic relationships and friendships. And they do this for a myriad of reasons, but it usually comes down to they want to see good in everybody and they understand the person's background, so they will rationalize it. The mom abandoned her. He had a crappy upbringing, whatever it is. But here's the deal. You're not a martyr. Like, it's up to people to fix themselves or to seek the help that they need. You're not there to be somebody's punching bag. So acknowledge your role in it, because it's going to be important to know so that you don't repeat the same problems again. Next time you run into a person like this, you will understand your propensity to rationalize, to justify, to feel bad, to want to help, and hopefully you'll make a better decision and not engage with another toxic person. Okay, so the conversation. How do we have the conversation? 2 ways to go about it, and it really depends on the person, the situation. You make the best call for you. 1 is the direct approach, directly telling her that you're ending the friendship. So you meet with her in person to have the talk. I have done it this way 1 time, and this is essentially how the conversation went. Look, this is a hard conversation to have because we have been friends for a long time. And in a nutshell, the friendship isn't working for me anymore. And candidly, it hasn't been working for quite a long time. And it's time for it to come to an end. The constant barrage of subtle but not so subtle, mean-spirited jokes at my expense, disinterest in anything that I have to say or contribute, and flat out unwarranted rudeness in a lot of situations is unacceptable, and I don't want it in my life anymore. I'm not angry, I don't hate you, I wish you well in your life, but the friendship has ended for me, and I just ask that you respect my decision and don't contact me anymore. Okay, that was hard. That is the basic gist of it. The other option is probably one that I like a little better. It's called the fade. It's less direct because you're basically fading communications. You're fading the relationship out. You aren't initiating any of the communications. You're not texting, you're not calling, you're not emailing. You're now usually busy or unavailable if she asks you to get together. So you're spending less and less and less and less time together. It's a slow fade. Whether she calls you out on it is really going to be dependent on her personality. Some people will call you out on it and say, hey, what's going on? And some people will just kind of take the hint and go away. It really depends on the person. stick to your guns. The more often that you say no to people who are not for your best and highest good, the more space you make in your life for positive events, positive people, positive things to come your way. But it takes clearing out the toxic channels first to make room for that. And I know you can do it. All right, if you have any comments for me, as always, I love hearing from you. For all things wellness, style, fitness, and healthy living, subscribe to my channel, visit me on the blog, AnnieParkerConfidential.com, and I'll see you on the blog. Bye, guys.